feeling is the second foundation. We all feel all the time, right? Do you feel yourself? Hopefully. So let's learn about feeling. How do you feel? You know, it doesn't come alive by itself. A reason for that, like I mentioned earlier, Buddhism deal with causation, law of causation. So it comes through the sixth sense sphere, or sixth sense organ, eye, nose, and body and mind, like Dharma Ruchi has mentioned. And this specific organ, eyes to see, ear to hear, nose to smell, tongue with the taste, and body contact with the touch, and mind with thoughts. So these are six sense organs. In the West, we have five, because physicists would say mind is not tangible, so they omit that. But no, in the East, mind is very important. It's the key to everything. So the sixth sense organ is the most important one. And now with the quantum physics, mass and energy can be interchanged. Now they start to be interested in the mind. Is that enough with the subject and object to understand? It doesn't. Like we learn in medical school, or in general, in public practice, you see this kind of thing. Your eyes receive sight, and the light goes to rhodopsin to the retina, and go crisscross. Some stay on the same side through optic tract to the visual cortex in the back of your brain. But that's all. It's not knowing. You know, you just see the image back there. It's transmit the image there. Buddha said you need another part very important, which is the mind. Or it's the same as consciousness, or the slang term is a heart or jaya in Thai, or mano in Pali. And the basic mind called Alaya Vinyana, or repository consciousness, or resting mind, like in deep sleep. You don't know anything. Like you fall asleep 3 hours. What did you talk about? So this is called resting mind, or Vangachita, if you want to learn more. But when it's activated, now it's called Panchatvara Vacha Chitta. That means the mind corresponding to the eyes called eye consciousness, the ears, ear consciousness, nasal consciousness, tongue consciousness, and body consciousness. Like I said earlier, you cannot use your ear consciousness to see, and you cannot use your eye consciousness to hear. Have to be very specific. Okay, just like the same pathway. You cannot use different pathways to see it. And the mind is important. They don't have any exposure outside, but then they know everything. Very sneaky. Because everyone has to report to them to understand mind consciousness, especially your thought that you don't always see. You don't catch it and run into trouble. Sometimes for days until you realize, oh, I don't have to think about it these days last year. The money you always forgive me. Okay. It's called activated mind or interactive mind. We teach it in Pali. So it needs 18 elements. Each one is three six sense organ would be 18, right? Subject, object, and the consciousness. So example, we have delicious biscuit with nice butter, jelly, topped with a lot of cream, with a little chocolate, and coffee on top. So it is an amygdala in the brain. You have delicious taste. You report that right away. Begin there. Amygdala is deal with emotional memory. People have PTSD, like post-traumatic stress syndrome, like Vietnam War veterans. Their amygdala shrink because they want to forget about it. They erase it out. Amazingly, it has effect physically, and then transmit to the nucleus accumbens, which is the rewarding center. Voila, happy climax. Okay. Climax not always nasty. Okay. Like Omar Sharif, the interview, he said, I got paid $1 million each movie. And then it says, all gone. My stable, my big house, mansion, all gone because he had began. And he said, every time I play, it had to top the last climax. You understand what I'm saying? Top that. So you memorize that in the reward center. It just sparks your hippocampus, memory of liking on the sensory side of the hippocampus after the nucleus accumbens. So we learn medical school, right? You don't remember what it is, nucleus accumbens is the reward center. Now the hippocampus is the main memory to everything. It's a junction, like you want to pull up the memory, let's go through there. And then not only liking, disliking also hit there. Something you hate, you don't want to run to it, you run away. So next they had craving into the frontal cortex. Frontal cortex deal by your thoughts all the time. So you have impulse, craving. Craving is what? The second noble truth. Okay? Craving, the sensory side, liking or disliking. So we may think feeling is nothing. But believe us, we thrive on feelings. In this world, eyes, we have, in the film industry, $38 billion globally 2 years ago. And we have like 4.6 million cones to deal with red, green, and blue color vision. And 92 million dark with black and white, sharpness, and so on. And your ears, music industry, 17.2 billion in the US only. And we have like 20,000 hair cells, okay, in the ear canal, okay, in the inner ear, not just the outer ear. We're going to after analysis interstate this and go through the hearing organ there. And also stabilizer, which is not the only ear. So you can see a lot of it. And here, the nose, like fragrance industry, more than movies, okay? 48 billion globally, 2016. Why it's important? Scientists know it's very important because two persons here, Linda Buck and Richard Evans, they got Nobel Prize in 2004. Why? Because he discovered receptor, about 1,000 receptors, different type of receptors, 1,000 genes. Each one just knows a certain specific order, okay? And they discovered that. And till now we have at least 6 million receptors in your nose. We can differentiate 1 trillion orders through this 1,000 genes, okay? And then dog is 300 million. That's why they're much sharper, okay? 50 times. If you got dog nose, you're very good. Hopefully not. No, tongue. What about tongue? 5.75 trillion. Food, just US alone, because we tried on food, right? Food industry a few years ago. And it turned out the tongue has 4,000 taste buds that the pad thai trigger on all 5 of this: sweet, sour, salt, bitter, and umami. Great taste. Pad thai rich that. There were no pad thai. I sell. And then bodily contact, massage is coming up very strong, $16 billion, okay, US alone, last year. And we have like at least 6 types of receptors, plus the nerve ending, bad nerve ending, 7. Deal with touch, pressure, hot, cold, and pain. Okay, it's protected there. What about the mind? Mind doesn't have receptor, but it causes a lot of drama. Just mental illness, $113 billion. That was 6-7 years ago. I don't know how much it is now, much more, I'm sure. So just to point out how the feeling play with you all the time. You thrive on it. The Buddha said this is how it arises. The real God, real thoughts, ignorance, don't see the truth, cause mental impulse, which tainted your mind, consciousness, and generate 7 metrogram imagination. So your 6th sense is tainted, eye, nose, tongue, body, mind, contact, they all corrupted. Craving, clinging, becoming, burden to your thoughts, and aging, ripening of the thoughts. If you don't see it because you're not having mindful awareness, that's how you generate ego, I. So if you have awareness, mindful awareness, it tore down the wall. It's all gone. I disappear. This cycle, you see selflessness, nirvana, happiness, peace and happiness. The unconditioned, you cannot condition those people anymore. You see what's going on, see the game. So again, coming back to a person has 5 aspects, form, body, feeling, mind, perception, impulse, and consciousness and mind. So body and mind, these are mental activities. They cause you problem. Protect you also cause you problem. It's generate this self-control dimension. And the Buddha said, to be born is suffering, to age is suffering, to die is suffering. Depart from your loved one suffering. Didn't get what you want, suffering. Got what you don't want, suffering. Physical, mental ailment is suffering. Grief, sorrow, lamentation, despair, suffering. He said, in short, the 5 aggregates. These 5 of clinging as self, is are suffering. Even each one of them also between to it. Like, oh, my hair turned gray. I got, growth in my eyes. I don't want that. So it's all clinging. You don't accept it. That's the first noble truth. Okay. So, if you see the truth, the 3 rules of impermanence, imperfection, selflessness, and there's no true permanent self there, no being, no person, no self, no you or me. Just build up in your brain. So over 100 years, scientists try to look for awareness of yourself located in your brain and your body. Haven't found it yet, and we'll never find it. That's how the Buddha said, with all those information, you generate your world like this, in this body and mind. So the Buddha said, I define the world, which space is suffering in up there. Cause of the world, the end of the world, and the path to end the world. In this body, 6 foot tall, and later on the end, 1 foot wide too. And equipped with this mind and perception. You need mind to perceive to the information of the field that you perceive. In this space with the 5 aggregates of clinging and suffering. And we generate this 7 program, Nama Rupa, after it came into your mind and consciousness. You generate this 7 program. And you become the thoughts, and you're born into your thoughts. So you need this mindful awareness to help you weed out this thing. What is mindfulness? You see a lot of people talk about this day. This is from the last year talk. I got 2 more books on the journals. Just to go to San Juan. You see so many. So mindfulness is paying attention to the present moment with attention and letting go of judgment as if your life is depending on it. John Kabat-Zinn say that. But when you say about mindfulness, in fact, there's two components. One is mindfulness, self-recollection, self-remembrance. Like Jim Comey, when Trump called him up to the Trump Tower, they talked seriously about, hey, go easy on General Finch. Okay, he come down to his car, he started to jot it down. He was very minded. He would collect everything, self-remembrance. And he knows something brewing. So he got clear comprehension, okay? Conscious awareness, full awareness, jot it down, make a memo, and put it unclassified, very clever. If you put classified, what happened? Can't use it. Put it unclassified, so it becomes his reference. He knows something is brewing. So that's an example of mindful awareness. Two things, okay? Awareness is about immediate, fresh feel, like hold your finger, rubbing, opening, close your hands. So these are the words of breath and mindfulness is self-awareness. Just to reiterate, say right mindfulness, like in the Noble Ethical Path, is basically pure perception, choices awareness, indiscriminate awareness, unbiased perception, perceived without passion or emotion, non-judgmental knowing, unknowing basically is known without thoughts, without biased thoughts, no bias. Perceived with wisdom, without problem. In what you expose to those feelings through your ideas and body and mind. So just to reiterate, what is mindfulness? It's retrieve and capture the phenomenon. Like I said, I wonder, they talk about this thing, object, I said, it's right here, and retrieve it. And then you investigate with the self-awareness. Self-awareness. Like you go through a line, PSA, first they line you up like this. That's mindfulness. But then when it comes self-awareness, they will investigate it. Put you through X-ray machine, like you took your belt off, the shoe off, what's in the left in there? Everything out. Look under the monitor, scrutinize you. You could be a terrorist. What is that liquid there? Give it to me. That looks like sake. That's good. I've been over there. One of them got my sake. Bottle of my backpack. I couldn't find it. And she was laughing, going back to the office. She was smiling all the way there. So that's how it works. Four foundations. This is some four foundations of mindfulness. And compared to the scientific finding, when you expose the object, you contact your brain, you perceive that and interpret it. And next it does, it interprets as self. See, the Buddha said, it looked to six sense dimension, how you know some body and mind. With the corresponding consciousness, contact, feeling, pure contact, pure feeling, pure perception, and then biased perception, craving, disturbing thought, and obsessive thoughts. Sometimes you don't need another purse or another pair of shoes. Somehow it follows you home. Disturbing thoughts, obsessive thoughts. That's how your bias in they call ITAC, a self-control organism. It turned out, like I said, the optic tract, I show you the visual cognitive, there's a feedback loop, 5 times stronger back to your the junction there, to your hippocampus area, and so on, the thalamus, the junction, the grand station junction, give you the emotion and so on, the self-concept. So Professor Damasio, he used to be head of neurology at UMI, and moved to USC now, in a huge mind consciousness center at USC. He said, in parallel to generating mental pattern from an object, the brain also generates a sense of self in the act of knowing. same, like, it's the way we react to the environment, we generate. You grasp it and say, no, that's mine. You have a recorder, that's mine. See, you have the sense of self acting out right away. But the Buddha said, no, it's two-step. It's not parallel, it's sequential. You see that? Pure perception and bias perception. And result in craving, essential desire, liking and disliking, which is what? Second noble truth, right? So we said, if you have mindful awareness, you can cut this pure perception. Okay? So that's the noble truth. When you get rid of self or ego. Coming back to this. So you basically look at this person, the five aspects of life, body, feeling, perception, thought, formation, consciousness. You perceive originally, passively, a touch of cold or hot. I turn the air down. You suddenly you can feel the cools, right? You feel it? Your pure perception. Okay? Passive, neutral. In Pali can call savasamvedana. You perceive, you feel with pure perception. It's perceptual processing. But then you generate this serially into active and biased perception with conceptual processes. I like this. Cool. Give me more. Okay? I can live with this. Not eat outside and so on. So that's the neuroscientists also said the difference too. Pure perception and biased perception. This is pure perception. It perceives, like I said, lost vision in the air and interpret here, supratemporal gyrus. The brain perceives, process different pathway. Perceptual processing based on physical feature, like color, shape, motion, and so on. Conceptual processing emphasizes meaning. It gives meaning to middle and inferior temporal gyrus and frontal lobe, again, the thoughts. When you have pure perception, you only use 0.5 to 1% of your brain energy. Brain energy is about 20% of your body expenditure of power energy. So when you have concentrated processing, 60 to 80% of your brain energy wasted. Like sometimes you quarrel with your spouse, haven't lifted a finger, but how come you're so drained? 80% are gone here, you know? That's how the mind is activated. Been working out 25 years ago. Resting mind, activated mind from the previous mind. It activated, like I said, by sight. It ends up with resting and into the sense field, like your eyes, with the corresponding eye consciousness and so on. And you receiving into it and investigate and then interpret it, determining, and then you indulge it in potion. 7 mind moment. It's been worked out, and then memorize the 2 last steps. 17 mind moment in 1 flash of the second or so. The thought cycle is about 150 milliseconds, or 200 at the most. You go through that later. So this is resting mind, activated mind. Just show a sample, you see a flower, lotus, it caught on to your eye consciousness, your eye system. And then it kind of activated the back of your visual cortex, visual center. That's what we learn in medical school. That's it. More now. See, it transferred, conveyed from the back of your brain to interpret here and there, that's it. In the supratemporal gyrus. It's been worked out already in Buddhism 2,600 years ago. So with shape, motion, color, you can tell it's a bird or flowers. And then you give the value. When you determine, give value, then you indulge conceptual processing here instead of pure perception. And you end up with this 17 steps. And calm. You base your volition is calm. For your intention, your will, according to what you have seen or interpreted. But if you have pure perception without interpreting, without determining, you just see everything as universal substance. You're not indulging in the just see it as a phenomenon. So you end up with pure action, with no karma or period. And it turned out like your mind, I mentioned, doesn't have the opening of exposure outside, but it memorized. Like you went to Hawaii, at the moment you're in Hawaii, it lit up your brain like this. You love it, lit up the place and your brain. But when you come back a year later, when you think of it, this is actual, this is virtual. When you think of it lit up the same place, and almost as strong. That's how you get into trouble with the thoughts, right? Next thing you know, you make a booking reservation, go back to Hawaii. They know that. That's why a lot of PR, HO, a lot of food, my patients say, gastric cancer. This is horrible. I can't eat this show food. You know how many times? 6 times now. I can't eat. So this is how you end up with doing nothing but this thought of sneaky thought with created delusion. You end up with this craving and clinging. So the Buddha said to this guy, to see, just see, exposed to this field. Hear, just hear, perceive, just perceive through the eye, nose, and body and mind. As sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. To realize, just realize. It's pure exposure, pure perception. We should understand and practice as such. See, just see, reiterate. See, just see, hear, just hear. Perceive as sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, or thoughts as such. And realize, just realize. Just such moment, so-called you, will no longer exist. There's no ego, no self, no biased perception. And then when there is no you, at such moment, you will neither exist in this realm, next realm, or between those realms. Voila. That's the end of suffering. That's so simple like that. The guy was fully enlightened. Really those words. Many of you raise your hand. What is that? That's a fourth noble truth, isn't it? And the result is a third noble truth. To see, just see, pure perception, pure feeling, end of suffering. So Buddhism emphasizes a lot that feeling, that perception, pure perception, sixth sense sphere. You can read about book, I think 17, 18 of the whole 5 of the whole thing is about the 5 skandha,